be talking about starting strong, and what we're really talking about is making impressions that last. Whether it's the first days of a job, an internship, or an interview session. Guys, this stuff is critical. So you're in for a treat. The session is sponsored by Boomer Consulting. And Boomer Consulting is a company that guides accounting firms and helps them increase performance and profitability with their unique accounting services. Over the last 5 years, Boomer Consulting has worked with 70% of the Accounting Today's top 100. Boomer Consulting is a remarkable company, and we at College Frog are very proud that Boomer is a part of Meet the Firms. Now I'd like to introduce you to our speaker today. I'm so excited to have Sandra Wiley a part of this event. Sandra is a friend to us at College Frog, and let me tell you a little bit about Sandra. So Sandra is the Chief Operating Officer and shareholder of Boomer Consulting. Sandra is ranked by Accounting Today as one of the 100 most influential people in accounting as a result of her prominent role as an industry expert on human resources and training, as well as influence as a management and planning consultant. Basically, Sandra, in her role, advises firms on building great teams, managing employees, hiring staff, and increasing performance. And she does so with firms all around the country. From 2012 and 2013, the CPA Practice Advisor said that Sandra was a top 25 thought leader. She was a top 100 most influential people in accounting list from 2009 through 2012. And in 2012, the Leading Edge Alliance on the Edge of Innovation Award. And I think one that is really cool is the 2012 CPA Practice Advisor Top 25 Most Powerful Women in the Accounting Profession. Sandra speaks regularly at conferences in front of large audiences, and she's a published author, and writes for many different publications, and is just phenomenal. So, Sandra, I could probably keep going on and on with how highly we think of you. We're so excited that you're here, and what I'd like to do is just turn it over to you, and let's get started, okay?
That sounds great, and thank you so much for the great introduction, and welcome to everyone on the phone today and on the presentation today. I love webinars, and I love to present this way. I also, at the same time, kind of have a love-hate relationship because I love the fact that we can all sit here together and spend 60 minutes together talking about a really good topic for all of you as you're getting started in your careers. I hate the fact that I am not with you, so I can see your faces and hear your questions and be very interactive with you. So I love the fact that at the end of this presentation, we've left a good amount of time for you to ask any questions that you have. I told Jeff before we started, hey, you can ask me any question you want to. If I don't know the answer, I'll get the answer, and if I think it's a crazy question, I'll give you a crazy answer back. So we'll have some fun here. I am smiling from ear to ear because this is the kind of audience I love. All of you young, fresh ideas, all you great people coming into our profession that are truly going to be change agents and truly are going to change how we do what we do today. Let me give you just a little bit more background. I am not a CPA. However, I have been working in this industry for almost 20 years now, and the profession is an amazing profession. You have chosen a career path that truly, whether you end up going private or public, I don't believe you will, nothing will hold you back except you. There's only one thing in this profession that will hold you back, and that's yourself. So many times, I start by telling you that my background is human resources. I have hired and fired and performance reviews and all kinds of things. So when I tell you what I'm about to tell you about how to make a first impression, it comes from absolutely being in the trenches doing the job. So this is, and I'm going to give it to you from the owner or from the shareholder's point of view and from the firm's point of view. Probably a little bit more in public accounting than in private, but everything I tell you here could be applicable to any job that you go after. I also want to tell you, you've probably already started this in your career, and you don't maybe even realize it. An intern, if you have an internship, if you've been at a job fair and you've pressed flesh with somebody, you know, you've shook their hand and looked at them and asked them about what they do, the resume that you develop, all of those things are what creates the impression that people have of you. I also will tell you that the impression that you make, no matter what that impression is, really, really good or really, really bad, or, and sometimes I think this is the worst one of all, nondescript, that impression will stay with people forever. Even if you change your behavior and even if you try to make it different later, they will always remember, and they'll tell stories about, well, do you remember when you first started? And so why not start off on a good foot, and then you've got the good impression from the very beginning. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about this 8 steps to being absolutely amazing in your first impression. And we're going to go for about 35 minutes here, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So I would encourage you, as I go along here, write the questions down or go ahead and type them right into the chat window so you don't forget them. If you're anything like I am, I'll think of something as somebody saying something, and then they go on to their next topic, and then I think, oh, I thought I had a question. I can't remember it. So go ahead and write them down as we go. So let's talk first with what I believe is the first step to really making a great impression, and that is to be intentional. And what the heck does that mean? Well, being intentional is to really act with resolve and with purpose, and to act in a certain way. So when you go into an interview, when you walk in for your first day on the job, when you walk into your first onboarding or training session, act with intention. Act like you know why you're there and what you're doing there. Sometimes it's an act, truly. You have to kind of make it up as you go along. But if you walk in and you look unsure and you look like you're not really sure why you're there or what you're doing there, trust me, they're going to see that. Sometimes we see people come into an interview or their first day on the job, and they really don't seem to care that they're there, or they don't really care how other people perceive them. And again, that shows very loudly. It's almost like you're screaming it out. And so I want you to act and walk in like you really know why you're there, what you're doing, that you care about it, and that you really want to do well from the very beginning. A second thing about being intentional that I think some people kind of forget is concentrate on getting other people that you're talking with, whether it's in the interview or whether it's in your first day on the job, get them to talk about themselves. Ask them questions. Go in prepared. Make sure that you have some questions to ask before you ever walk through the door. There's a lost art of asking people about themselves. The next time you meet somebody who is a stranger, I want you to do this little, I don't know, it's a little exercise I do all the time. I meet someone, I shake their hand, I immediately, and part of it's just because of who I am, I immediately go into asking them about, oh, and where do you work, and what do you do, and where do you live, and I ask all kinds of questions. I cannot tell you how many times I have done that, and at the end of this conversation, sometimes hours of conversation, I'll walk away and I'll think to myself, they never once asked me about me. They never reciprocated. They never said, well, so Sandra, where do you work and what do you do? Never. And so it's a lost art. I want you guys to go in with bringing that back into vogue again. So make sure that you're asking people about themselves. And at the beginning, when you're first having a relationship with somebody, when you're first developing that professional relationship, don't get too personal about those questions. Make sure that those first questions are intentional questions about their career, about the job, about the firm, about the business. Those are the kind of questions that are completely appropriate, and they are very intentional in how they're directed, and it'll make the people feel like, oh, they really care. Hopefully, you really do. It's not just a fake. It's really real that you really care about what you're doing there. So make sure you're doing that. Now, as the relationship develops, then it's appropriate, probably after 2 or 3 months, And you can gauge that by how you're interacting together. Then it's completely appropriate to start asking more questions about the family, the kids, what they like to do outside of work, those kinds of questions. But at first, keep that professional side on. Know something about the company. Whether you're going for the interview or whether you're going for the first day on the job, I am constantly saddened by the fact that there are a lot of people out there that walk through the doors and know nothing about the firm. And today it is easier than ever to find out about the firm and who works there and what kind of niches they're in. So much easier because we've got websites. So go to their website, find out as much as you can about them. If you cannot find it on their website, use your Chamber of Commerce. They will know everything about them. Find information about the individuals, the businesses, and research those things. The next thing I would tell you is, and this is something that you will have to learn as you go, and that is remembering people's names. There is nothing more intentional and nothing more purposeful than if you remember people's names. Being able to shake their hand, remember their name. Sometimes, if it's an unusual name, if you have them say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you spell that for me? That will help you remember it. Also, repeating it back to them will absolutely help you remember their name. So there's some little tips and tricks you can do out there, but remembering their name is important. And the last one, or one of the last ones, is never brag. You know, when I think about the people that I've met and the impressions that they've given me that haven't been so positive, they're people who are constantly talking about themselves and telling me all the cool things about themselves. I appreciate very much Jeff's introduction of me, but if you met me, you would never hear any of those things. I don't like to talk about all those awards that are out there. Not that I'm not proud of them. They hang on my walls. They sit on my shelves. I'm very proud and very honored when I get those things. But I don't want to be that bragging person, and I don't want you to be either. What your grade point average is, where you went to school, all those kind of things, unless you're asked about them, make sure that you are talking about the things you know and that you do in relation to what you would be doing at the firm, what will you be doing in the job. That makes sense, but not just to be a bragger. Nobody likes that. And the last thing about being intentional, and there's a great book out there, and if you are, I'm going to challenge everybody right now, become a reader. I know you're coming out of school soon. I know that you've been reading textbooks till your eyes are followed out of your head. But the kind of reading that you need to start doing right away is business reading, profession reading, staying up to date on the best ways to run a company. Here is a nice little book that will gain you huge advantage in your career, and it only takes you about maybe half an hour to read. It's called Fish. Fish is a book about the four rules, kind of the golden rules of how to build relationships and take care of your customers or your clients. And in that book, one of the rules is called be there. And what be there means is that when you are with somebody, when you are talking with somebody, when you are building a relationship with somebody, whether that's a boss, a peer, a client, whatever you're doing right then, everything else gets pushed out of your mind and you are right there with that person. I'll give you an example. Right now, you are all sitting in your offices, and you're sitting at your computers, or you're sitting in your dorm rooms, or you're sitting in somewhere, and you are looking at a computer screen and you're listening to me. If you have checked your mail, checked your phone, talked to your neighbor next to you, answered an email, anything else while I'm doing this, you haven't been here. You're somewhere else. When you are in this position where you're developing that first impression, you have to be there with that person. And don't let other things get in the way. So keep that one in mind. All right, so that was our first step, be intentional. Our next one is one that I hate, quite frankly. It's kind of a fun one to talk about, but it's called dress code. I call it watch the ornaments, because sometimes we forget that the dress and the outward appearance, the packaging that we come to the table with, absolutely sets the tone for the first impression that you're going to make with people. So first, just dress appropriately. You know, I don't want to tell you you have to be in the blue suit, you know, blue pinstripe suit with the white shirt and, you know, no jewelry. I think you can be yourself and be very, you know, make the packaging fit who you are, but make sure that it is appropriate for where you're going to be. So if you're going to an interview, make sure you ask before you go, what's the appropriate dress? Some firms today, I'll give you a couple of examples. If you go to work for one of the big firms and you are going to go to work at one of the you know, big 4, big 5, 6 people that are out there, firms that are out there, even the top 100, I'm going to tell you you're probably going to be in a suit. If you go to work for a very small public accounting firm that maybe has 10, 15 people and they are doing things in a much different way these days, you very well may be in a polo shirt and khaki pants. I went to one firm in California, and their everyday dress was, you know, khaki shorts with a Hawaiian shirt on. That was their everyday dress. But that is unusual, very unusual. So for the interview, I would always tell you, suits are never out of fashion. Now, you may catch a little bit of guff when you go there, and when they say to you, what the heck are you in a suit for? And you'll know you'll never have to wear one again, but you'll never go wrong in a suit. So I would tell you first and foremost do that. I also made a rule years ago that you should dress one step above what your clients do. And I would say the same thing when you talk about going for an interview or going to your first day on the job. If there's any room for error on the side of being a little overdressed and not underdressed. That's not what you want. Go easy on what I fondly call the stinky stuff, right? The colognes, the perfumes, and all of that for 2 reasons. One, people just don't want to smell it. When you get, you know, a whole bunch of people in the room together and you all have on the cool perfume and the cool cologne, it kind of all runs together and pretty soon you all get sick. So I make a joke there, but not really. I also will tell you in this world we live in today, there's a lot more allergies, and there's a lot more people that just can't fathom the whole perfume thing. So just stay away from it. Dab it on lightly if you have to use it. Your makeup, your jewelry, your watches, the shoes you wear, look at yourself. Have someone else look at you. One of the best stories I ever heard was a young lady who was going to go to work for a public accounting firm. She had been working in private industry. In the private company she worked in, it was very, very casual. She was very concerned about now going into a public accounting firm that had high-dollar clients. So she knew already that they had very high-dollar clients. They'd already interviewed her once, and she thought, I don't really know whether I look the part or not. She went to a local department store, and she asked the lady, one of the ladies there that was a buyer, to help her. And it was a brilliant idea. It was free. They didn't charge her anything, except for obviously the clothes that they sold her. And she really had a head, you know, kind of a foot up when she went into that job. Let me also tell you, while you may be sitting there saying, oh, it doesn't really make that much difference, I'm here to tell you it absolutely does. Your packaging, what you look like, is absolutely going to tell the firm how serious you are about being there. I also do not think for 1 minute you have to dress in, you know, $5,000 suits. That's crazy. There's a lot of great stores out there that have very value-priced kind of clothing now that you can absolutely work on. Also remember, keep your work wardrobe completely separate from the fun stuff, right? So you don't have to buy much. You're just going to be at work. Buy a few things that are really in good taste, and you just mix and match those. Keep your fun clothes just for fun. All right, enough about that one. All right, body language. Watch your body language, everybody. This is going to tell people whether you're confident or whether you are not, whether you're outgoing or whether you're very introverted. Your posture, the way you fidget, the way you hold yourself, the way you shake a hand, all of those things are going to tell everything about how confident you feel in yourself. I will tell you, if you have to, fake it a little bit, okay? I want you to feel like you're as confident as anybody else walking into that room. Smile, shake a hand. I have a daughter who is 21. She's in a leadership class in her college, and I made the comment to her when I'm actually, you'll love this. This will tell you what kind of a helicopter parent I am, probably. But she started the leadership program as a freshman. She, after 1 week, she said, "I want out of that leadership thing. It's stupid." And I said, "No, you can't." And here's why she thought it was stupid. Because in the very first week she was in that class, they were teaching them how to have a good handshake. And she said, "Mom, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen." I said, "It is not." Because let me just tell you, from my point of view, I shake hands. I go to conferences almost every week for the rest of the year, starting after April 15th. And that is the first impression that I have of almost every single person I meet. And I can tell you the ones that I shook hands with, and they were the fishy handshakes, the it didn't work so well handshake, where it felt like you were shaking a dead fish. Those are the ones that instantly, I think, not very professional. They don't really have it all together. That may not be fair, but that's the truth. And I'm telling you, I'm not the only one out there. So if all of you are thinking to yourself, well, I think I have a pretty strong, you want a strong handshake, you don't want a killer handshake either. Gentlemen out there, make sure that you're not going to squeeze the daylights out of somebody when you give them a nice firm handshake. But the handshake is important. Think about things that you do on a consistent basis in the body language and how you portray yourself. It is also about how you hold your hands. Do you cross your arms all the time? Do you cross your legs and then your foot shakes? I saw a gentleman one time that he would sit there with his feet both on the floor, but one foot would shake, and it would just shake the entire room almost. And I think it was a nervous habit. Think about those nervous habits you might have, and find someone who knows you well, and ask them if do I have nervous habits that kind of stand out to you when we're together? Clicking a pen, scratching your head, girls, twisting your hair. So those are all things that happen that you don't want to happen when you're in a professional environment. The other thing just to keep in mind, first impressions go clear into the workforce. Don't think that you can go into your job, on board, show them that you're there to do business, and then 3 months later start getting sloppy about things again. We don't want that to happen either. So watch your body language. All right, let's look at number 4. Be interested in what they're doing and interesting, and be interesting yourself. So think about that for a minute. Do you find that people find that you are interesting to talk to? The first thing I'd tell you is, first of all, just kind of relax. This is all about just being yourself. And most of you are amazing people that I find extremely intriguing to talk to once we get past the first uncomfortableness and that kind of robotic feel that you have when you first meet somebody. Once we push past that, then it's all good. And you're all very, very interesting. But if you find yourself thinking, I really don't know what I'm going to talk to these leadership people about, these leaders in the firms and in the businesses I go into, I don't really know how to start a conversation with the person that I'm going to meet at the job interview. One of the things I would tell you is the more well-read you are, the more you understand current events, what's going on in our profession, what's going on in the niche that you choose to go into, or the type of business your firm has. The more you know about those things, the more you will have be able to have a conversation with somebody about those things. So be well-read. A couple of tips that I have for you is, I don't know how many of you have iPads or iPhones. Probably the majority have something like that. There's an app out there called Zite, Z-I-T-E. Some of you may already have it, but Zite is an aggregator. It will pull in stories for you from different areas. I have mine set up so that it will pull in things on teamwork and collaboration and our profession, the accounting profession. And so I don't have to read everything out there. I can read a few things out there. Sorry about that. I needed to take a little drink. The cold has hit me, I'm afraid. So using something like Zite or Flipbook is another one that I have on my iPad that I absolutely love because it pulls in my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, everything, along with articles from all of the different magazines and all the different news sources I want. So having something like that that's an aggregator that you can scan and get into the habit, just like many of you have adults in your life that every morning went out to get the paper, came in and read the paper, or read the paper at the office before they got started. For you, I want you to get in that same habit. You don't have to read the paper, but you need to read your iPad. You need to read what's going on in the world. Industry publications, Accounting Today, there's many of them, many of them out there. Get in the habit of picking that up and reading through it. You don't have to read it cover to cover. This is not an assignment like in college, but learn to scan. Learn to find the big picture. Learn to say, so that when somebody says to you, oh man, such and such happened to us, oh, I read about that the other day. That is going to make, that becomes a very interesting conversation. And more than anything, it gives them the impression that you are interested in the profession and you are interested in the firm and you're interested in this life that you have chosen for yourself. That's important. And then lastly, business books. If you have the opportunity in your firm to get involved in a book club, to get involved in a group of people that are going to read something together and then discuss it, take advantage of that, even if it takes up some of your lunch hours or something like that. Books are important. We read in our company at least a book every month. One book per month is what our goal is. Some people read faster than that, others just a little slower. But get in that habit. I think that is so important. And if you want a way to make yourself interesting, that's the way to do it. All right, number 5, juggling. Juggling from the very beginning of your career is going to be so important. And the impression that you set about how you can juggle and how you can handle all of those different things is going to stand out to people. It is absolutely going to be front and center to most people about how they're going to see you as a future leader, as someone who can rise up in the organization fast, someone who can take on more interesting work faster. They're going to see that, or they're going to think they see that from the very beginning. I teach a leadership class to managers in CPA firms. That's about 50% of my job throughout the year. And I got to tell you, I have some people who will send their managers to me and say, you know, we have hope for them, but they really haven't shown it yet. And almost 100% of the time, when I have a person sitting in front of me that has risen to manager, but they have not been able to really show off themselves, it's because they haven't mastered this skill. So you have to learn to juggle. And you're going to be juggling really 4 areas of your life. Yourself, you know, let me just tell you, the sooner you start taking care of self, the better you are. And when I say self, it's about health, it's about your education, it's about your learning, it's all of the things that make you who you are, understanding yourself well, so balancing yourself and having time for yourself. The second area is understanding and balancing your relationships with your family and maybe personal relationships. That's something that you definitely don't want to let slide in your life, so you always have to put a position for them in your life. Your career. You are ready to enter this world of career. Up until this time, you may have had some jobs. You may have had some internships. The game has now changed. The impression that you are going to be building now is the first step in your building of a career. It's different. You've turned the corner on just a job. And the last thing is spiritual and religion. Now, whether you're a religious person or not, spirituality is important for people. It's the deeper feeling about why we're here and what we're doing. You will have to find at some time in your life that you're going to be juggling that also. So the thing that I think most people incorrectly think is they go into this world and into this life and they think, well, I'm always going to have my family first or my faith first and then my self and then my, they have this very hard and fast number 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is not true. Don't let anybody ever tell you that. What is true is that sometimes your personal self is going to win. Sometimes your family is going to win. Sometimes your career is going to win. And sometimes spirituality is going to win. But not every time they're going to stay in the same order. What you need to discover, and only you can discover this. There isn't a magic equation, you guys. What you have to decide is what's right for you. When I was your age, when I was in my 20s, my career was first, because it could be. I didn't have a family then. I was out of school. I could put my career first. As my family came into play, my family took over first place for a while, for a long time. And I still had my career. I still balanced it. I still loved it. But my family oftentimes won. Today, I am just at the point where I'm getting ready to be able to put the career back into the top place again. That doesn't mean that there weren't times during that family era that my career didn't win. There were a few times that happened. But you have to learn to juggle that. I heard a wonderful story one time, and I believe I heard it from Rebecca Ryan. Rebecca tells me she heard it from somebody else, so I believe it's one that's been going around a while. But it was advice that someone had given to her, and it was this. In life, there are rubber balls and glass balls, and you are always juggling them. Your family is glass, so you can't drop them, ever. Many of your work projects are rubber balls. The assignments that you'll get, the little ones, they'll still be there tomorrow, and you can plan that in advance, and you can let those drop and pick them back up again. And sometimes a work project becomes a glass ball, and that's where the problem lies. You have to figure that out. Is this a career glass ball that I can't let drop? And you have to let your family know, I'm not dropping you, but I'm going to have to put you on hold for a couple of days. Not a couple of months, a couple of days. Then I'll come back. And they're more likely to understand and respect that if you know it's just a project, if it's just a short term. If you find yourself, when you have the family, putting everything you've got into the career, then you have to learn to juggle a little better. So hopefully all of you will learn to juggle from the beginning, because that's what it's going to take. People will respect that, but you're going to have to do that yourself. All right. Number 6. This is an easy one, hopefully, for all of you, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. Technology is huge, and in firms today, it's even bigger than it's ever been. Ask lots of questions in your interview and when you first go on the job about what technologies they're using, where they're going, what they ultimately want to have happen in their firm in technology, what training they have. Make sure you're asking lots of that. I also want to encourage you, as you're going through the interview process and as you're going through the initial training stages and as you're taking notes, I want to encourage you to use technology to do that. You don't have to be a paper and pencil person. Now, if you are, that's okay. But if you are an iPad person, or if you are a laptop person, or if you are someone who would rather use a tablet, then by all means do that. I believe in every firm today, they get that. They understand technology well. One more caution on this one. And you may know what I'm going to say here, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't care what you have learned up till this point in your life, but when you are on the job and when you are working and when you're giving your attention and you're being there within your job, texting, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that has absolutely no place in the business. Now, they're going to give you, every firm is different. There are some firms that are trying to give a little bit more leeway, and they're giving some time for those kinds of social networking. There are other firms that have just said no. I think that the ones that are saying we're going to give it some time is completely okay, but I also don't believe that firms need to be taken hostage by it also. So keep that in mind and be very, very sensitive about how much time you're spending on those wonderful pieces of technology. All right, so I told you I wouldn't spend much time there, so I won't. Collaboration. Collaboration is something that I absolutely feel is imperative within the workplace, whether you're in private or public business. I think that you guys have all been collaborating since you were very young, and I think it is the one true value that some of our young up-and-comers are missing the boat on when they come into their business. Businesses are used to being more siloed and more individualistic, and I think that's too bad, because and that's how they were raised. That's how the baby boomers were raised. So that's what they get. That's what they know. What they don't get and what they don't know is that collaboration makes things better. It makes clients happier. It makes our community members happier. It makes our internal team happier and more engaged. And collaboration is something that you guys, have been living with and have been growing up on for your whole lives. So let me just encourage you to bring that collaborative nature into the business. Now, you're going to have to be a little patient because they don't necessarily always get it. But when you see opportunities for, if we collaborated on this client, if we collaborated within this team, if we collaborated to make this project go better, my guess is they will listen to you. But it may take a few times, and it may take some education on your part to let them see that. But I believe this is a value where you can make a first impression by giving them some new ideas on how they can collaborate better together, both internally and with clients. So keep that in mind and keep thinking collaboration as you're working on your first impression. The ideas and the new energy that you bring to the firm is imperative to their success, and they know it. All right, and the last one, number 8, know yourself. When I say know yourself, that sounds ridiculous. Of course we know ourselves. Nobody knows us better, right? Yes, sometimes. But sometimes as a younger person coming into this profession, we are feeling uncomfortable about really knowing ourselves well. I want you to really think through the following 3 or 4 things that I'm going to tell you and ask yourself if you feel comfortable. If I was sitting there interviewing you today, would you know the answers? Would you understand yourself well enough to be able to tell not what you think I want to hear, but what you truly know about yourself? Cognitive abilities. Cognitive is what you learned in school. I don't want to know what's on your transcript. What I want to know is, what did you learn? What classes did you take that you loved? What projects did you do while you were in college that you just really ate up? What paper did you write that made you get fired up? That's what I want to know. I want to know deeply, what is it that you learned that you really are bringing to the table for my firm? The second thing is affective, and that is your personality traits. What is your personality? Now, you may never have anybody ask you about your personality, but the more you understand what your personality is, the better you will be able to work that into a career that will really be best for you. So be aware of what your personality is like, and don't be afraid to push outside your comfort zone a little bit. If you're very introverted, push outside your comfort zone a little bit and act as if you are extroverted. It doesn't hurt anything. It'll be very uncomfortable, but it doesn't hurt. If you're an extreme extrovert, it's okay for you every once in a while to sit back and just take it all in, even though it will feel very uncomfortable to you. But know yourself well, and know when it might be offensive to others when you're acting in the way that you normally act, your normal personality. You're going to have to blend with the other people that are around. Think collaboration again. The third one is cognitive, and cognitive is how you like to work. Do you like to be more behind the scenes, working, just on one project at a time, or do you prefer to have a whole bunch of things going on at one time? How do you like to do the work that they're going to ask you to do? And if there's a certain way that you prefer to work the best, don't be afraid to at least bring that up to them. Now, you may not get everything you want right away, but if they know that that's how you like to work, unless they know that, unless you've told them what you want, don't expect to get anything, right? If you really love to work in an office or in the office, in the physical building, then that's important to know. If you're better off working from home, that's important too. They may not let you do that right away. There's a certain amount of trust that has to be built first, but that can happen. The last one that I want to encourage you here is your goals. I believe each of you has a purpose. I believe each one of you has a passion that you may not have figured out yet, but you will. I believe each one of you does have a gift that you bring to the firm, a gift that you bring into this world that you can unleash somewhere. It may be at the firm that you're getting ready to go into. But you have to have some goals set. You have to know where you're going and what you want. And does that mean that today you have to decide whether you want to be an owner or a shareholder of a firm? Absolutely not. But you at least have to have some goals on where you're going to push you forward. That will be impressive. That will be an impression that they want to see. And so if somebody looks at you and says, well, tell me what your goals are over the next 10 years. If you sit there and look dumbfounded and go, I really have no idea. I've thought about it, but I just don't have a clue. The impression level is going to sink a little. If you say, I'm not exactly sure that I want to be a partner in a firm, but I know that I want to be a leader in a firm, that will make an impression. So the last thing I wanted to tell you, and I'm going to put it up here next because I think it's important. So I've been telling you a lot of things. I've been giving you all kinds of dress code and how to be intentional and how to collaborate and how to know yourself. So I've given you tons of things to talk about. The final tip I have for you is practice. And you're going to hate what I'm about ready to tell you. But usually when you practice, you find someone that you trust a lot and you go through mock interviews or you talk about, well, when I meet the managing partner, what should I say to him, and you kind of practice it. One of the best things that you can do, in my opinion, to really understand your body language, the way you speak, how you sound, is to be taped. So get out your little flip video or your iPhone, set it up, have somebody sit there with you, someone who will be tough on you, someone who isn't just going to let you off the hook and be nice to you, and do a mock interview or do a mock conversation with a leader of a firm, like a mentoring session, and then watch the tape. Watch the video afterwards. You will pick up on things that you're doing that you will be stunned about, and that will absolutely help you as you move forward. All right, so we have come to that time where I will answer any questions that you have, and according to Jeff, I think we have a few. So Jeff, what questions does the audience have for me today?
You're right, Sandra. There are a lot of questions, and so I'll just kind of jump right into it. But first of all, I hope everybody's paying attention because one quick takeaway when you talk about being intentional and being present is recruiters use a word. It's a little secret, I think, in the world of recruiting, but it's how does a candidate present? They may have all the technical skills in the accounting sector that apply, but do they present well? And that goes right down to the things you've been talking about. Handshake, eye contact, how are you dressed? How do you speak? Are you confident? Do you know what you want? Things like that. It could be the difference between success and failure, really, in interviewing and in your first few days on the job. So this is outstanding. So the first question that we had, Sandra, was going back to something you said earlier. There's a fine line of bragging and speaking highly of yourself and answering questions. When you're in an interview, what's the standard that you would apply to where someone can speak about themselves and not be bragging?
It depends on the question that you've been asked. So if they ask you, I mean, it really does come back to knowing your audience well. But here's how I differentiate. If someone asks me the question, so Sandra, have you ever won any awards in this industry or in this profession? Then I would say, yeah, I have, and I was really honored. And I might let it go at that. And they say, well, share with me. What are they? Then at that point, it's not bragging. It's just answering a question. The same thing in an interview. If someone looks at you and says, well, so tell me, were you happy with your grade point average? Did you really feel like that you did as well as you could have? Then you answer the question. You may not start with, oh yeah, I love it, because I was like a 4.2, and that was better than anybody else, and that's where it's bragging. So you answer the question, but you stop short of patting yourself on the back. So I don't know if that helps or not, but I like the idea of answer the question, but kind of stop short of being a braggart, of sitting there telling them how great you are. So
I think that's a perfect response, because you can't withhold information in an effort to be overly modest, but you're answering a question that's a matter of fact without kind of tripping into this boundary of talking about how great you are. Because
right.
Everyone in this call is going to be going through interviews, or in the first few days on a job will be asked about themselves. I think that's a great way of answering questions that you're given.
Absolutely.
A lot of folks have asked about the book Fish, and asked to clarify the title. That's F-I-S-H, as in the animal that swims in the sea. I think there's an exclamation point at the end of it. And Sandra, I think Ken Blanchard is the author.
That is correct. That is correct. And if you go on Amazon.com and just put in fish with an exclamation mark, it'll pop right up. And truly, it's just I call it the little golden book. And there's a whole bunch of different books out there. There's like Fish and Fish Tales and Fish Sticks. I mean, they've done other books that are complementary of that one. But Fish, it's an orange book, and it'll be the very first one that pops up on Amazon. And it's a great book. And it is Ken Blanchard. You are correct.
Perfect. Really great question, that when you talked about you are your only limitation. So one of our attendees asks, if you are your only limitation, then how do you identify what about you is limiting you?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I love that question. And I'll tell you that this will take some guts for you to do, but I believe that the one way that you can really identify what your limitations are is to have some intentional conversations with people that know you really, really well. And here's what you're going to ask them. You're going to go sit down with some people and do it one-on-one, and give them permission to give you honest and very blunt feedback. Okay, so you have to start the conversation by saying, so if my best friend was Judy, and I go to Judy and she's known me my whole life, and I sit down with her and I say, Judy, I'm going to give you permission right now to give me very blunt and very pointed feedback, because I'm trying to figure out the things about me that I could do better. So I need to know, first of all, what's the one thing that you think I do that's just amazing, that I do so well and I do better than most people you know? And let her, Judy, respond. So she's going to give you something really good to think about first. So now you're going to know what you do well, and that's just as important as the things you don't do well, because now you can capitalize on that. Let's pretend she said, you communicate with people better than anybody I know. I mean, you really can speak to people, and it's great. Thank you. So in my interview, guess what? I'm going to use that when they say, what are some of the best things about you? I've had people tell me that the best thing about me is I communicate. Okay, now, back to Judy. Look at Judy and say, now, this is going to be a harder question, but it's the most important question I'm going to ask you, and I don't want you to throw me a bone, and I don't want you to just make me feel good. I want to know, what's the one thing that I do that drives you crazy? That if I could change this thing about myself, I would. What is that? Give her some time or him some time to think about it, but let them respond, no matter what they say. I don't care if they say, you wear your hair like an old lady hair, or you laugh too loud. I mean, your laugh is like a cackle and I can't handle it. Whatever it is, you thank them for telling you. You don't push back. You don't make excuses. You go, thank you for your opinion and for your honesty. That's it. But those are the gems that will tell you what is holding you back. If you find people that will really tell you the truth, they will tell you what's holding you back. It's the things that nobody will ever tell you about unless you ask them. So there you go. That's what I would do.
I'd be willing to bet too, Sandra, that if you're uncomfortable asking someone in your workplace, if you ask a personal contact, my guess is that it's probably the same thing in a person. Whatever it is that a personal friend would answer might be the very same thing that might be happening at work. So you might be able to get some great intelligence, great feedback, even if it's a trusted friend, and don't feel like you have to go and ask your boss at work or something like that.
That's exactly right. And you're right. The trusted friend will probably be more honest with you because they don't have to see you every day at work. Now, once you've developed good relationships at work, we just went through this at Boomer Consulting in the last 6 months. And it's called Ascertaining Satisfaction. And it's going and asking people about, what's the one thing that I do that's great, and what's the one thing I'm doing that I could change that would make me better and would make our relationship better. We've all worked together for anywhere from 20 to probably, I think the newest employee is about 6 years old, 6 years in the firm. So we did that, but that takes a lot of, you have to have a very solid relationship. So I agree with Jeff. Start with doing with a friend or with your mom, your dad, or an aunt and an uncle, somebody that knows you well outside of the firm. Once you've been in the firm for a while, then you can do it internally.
Outstanding. I'm going to roll along here since we've got about 6 minutes left. If you didn't understand a question during an interview, what's the appropriate way to ask? I actually think that's a great question because how would you respond to that?
I think there's a couple of ways. First of all, don't ever try to disguise it because that will backfire on you every time. If you try to answer the question and they look at you, and then you're going to figure out by the way they're looking at you, I didn't answer that question. I didn't do that well. I always think honesty is the best policy. So they ask you a question, you're not quite sure. Two things. Either if you really didn't understand any of it, just say, would you mind repeating the question because I want to make sure I answer appropriately. That's completely okay. The other way to do it is if you think you've got it but you're not absolutely sure, say, would it be okay if I repeat back the question first just to make sure that I understand what you're asking? And then you repeat back the question to them, and then they'll either go, no, that's not quite what I meant, or they'll say, yeah, that's exactly it, and then you'll know. But I think one of those two is probably your safest bet.
Outstanding. Great. Perfect. And it's just good having a tool like that so you don't have to think about it in the heat of the moment.
Right.
Another good question about how to being intentional. How about in a phone interview? Any tips or your thoughts on how to act intentional when I'm on a phone interview rather than in front of another person?
Yeah, in a phone interview, the one thing, you're going to think this is a little crazy, I'm sure, but in a phone interview, there's a couple of things I would do. First of all, stand up and act like you are talking. I mean, pretend you're right there in the room with a person or face-to-face with the person so that you can pace a little bit, so that you can use your hand and be animated. Best case scenario, if you're on a phone interview, if you have a headset, that would even be better, because then you could truly use your hands to kind of, again, pretend the person's right there and you're speaking to them. I wish you could see me right now because you would understand what I'm talking about, because I'm on a headset and I'm just looking right at you on the screen here. So my hands are going like crazy. So that's one thing. The second thing is make sure there's no distractions. One of the things that's easy to do today in our environment is to be somewhere that it's really hard to be with them, because you're sitting in a car, you're sitting in a Starbucks, you're sitting in a classroom, and you're trying to do this interview, and you have distractions. Try to be undistracted when you're on there. And the other thing and the last thing is smile. There is a difference. Try it someday. Have somebody call you or record yourself. That's even better. Record yourself and be very frowny. Frown when you're saying something. And then the next time, call and record it with a smile on your face. There is a difference in your language and in your excitement in your language if you are smiling and if you have a good presence about you than if you are like Eeyore on the phone. So that's what I would say. I hope that helps.
That absolutely does help. I'm going to try to work in two more here. Sandra, how do you keep calm when someone judges you for your dress or your behavior? How do you respond if that happens?
You know, that's hard. That's hard to do, and it's very hard not to get offended or be upset by what they tell you. But always, if someone is putting themselves out there to look at you and give you feedback on what you're wearing, how you might smell, too much perfume, whatever. What they're really trying to do is that they're really trying to help you. And I think if you think about it in a way that is, they're trying to help me. It's all about reframing what you're saying. And if you're reframing it and you're saying, you know what, they're just trying to help me, all of a sudden it gets much, much easier. If you're looking at it and you're thinking to yourself, oh, they're just trying to criticize me and they're mean to me, then it's going to be offensive. So take a deep breath. I always tell people that. When you are in a position where you're, you can feel the blood pressure start to raise, take a deep breath and sit quietly for a minute and then respond with, I respect what you're trying to tell me. So, and then have a conversation about it. Don't just walk away because you'll probably not get it all right. Have a conversation with them about it afterwards.
That's fantastic. Well, lastly, Sandra, this is actually a question I got a few times. Is you mentioned fish. What other business books do you recommend? We have a lot of strong readers in our audience today.
Oh, I love that. Great. All right, so here's some the ones that I love, and right now are sitting on my shelf. There is a book called "It's Okay to Be the Boss" by Bruce Tulgan, Tulgan. It is a wonderful book, and he actually wrote a second book that I think for all of you would even be, I'd read the It's Okay to Be the Boss first, and the second one, It's Okay to Manage Your Boss, which is a spectacular one for those of you that are entering this profession. So both of those I think are great. I also read a really good one that I think everyone in our profession should read called Fake Work, F-A-K-E Work. And let's see, the author of that one, it's two people, Peterson and Nielsen, but it's about why people are working harder than ever but accomplishing less and how to fix the problem. And I have been, you should see my copy. It has got highlighting all over it, and it's got little bookmarks in it. And one of the the reason I started reading it was because a friend of mine who is from England was asking me about work, and I was telling him I was going on some free days, and he said, well, how many hours do you work in a week, Sandra? I said, well, I don't keep track of my hours, so I really don't know. But I said, probably anywhere from 60 to 80. And he said, well, you're an idiot. And I said, probably. And he said, well, in England, we work really, really hard for about 9 hours a day, and then we don't work at all at night, at all. But he says, but the 9 hours that we put in are completely devoted to work. We don't mix it up too much. And it got me to thinking about how we work in these United States that we live in. And then I read Fake Work, and it made so much sense to me because we do mix our lives up a lot when we're at the office. Every time you're texting, you've taken time away from the work. Every time you run an errand, you've taken time away from the work. If we really squished it all into a smaller time frame and got rid of things that don't matter and things that really are just time suck, it would be amazing how much we could accomplish in a much shorter amount of time, and we'd probably all be a little happier. So Fake Work, great book. And by the way, I have a whole list. I have 2 pages, I think now, of books that I recommend. So if you guys want that, I can send it to Jeff, and Jeff could put it on the website or whatever he wants to do with it.
Hey, let's do that. And actually, I was going to say, Sandra, if you don't mind, we'll do a follow-up email to the group, and I'll put your social media contact on there so folks can follow you on Twitter and follow Boomer Consulting as well.
That would be great. Yep, because I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I have Instagram, but you guys won't want those because those are just pictures of my kids. So. Anyway, so there you go. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, Sandra, it goes without saying that was just simply remarkable, and I think so. Two housekeeping items. One, there's a lot of questions still out here. What I'll do is I'll stay on and answer the rest of the questions. If you've asked a question and you'd like me to answer it, I'll stay on and fire off an answer if I know it. If not, we'll try to research the answer and get back to you. Number two is I'll send you an email with with Sandra's social contacts. And three, Sandra, you'll send me that book list. We'll put it on our blog, and we notify our users and our members when those blogs are posted. I think that would be remarkable. I think everybody here is excited about that. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with this session. It was fantastic, and we wish you, Sandra, best of luck, and best of luck to Boomer Consulting as well. We know that you guys are going to have a great year. And as far as the rest of the week is concerned, if you're interested in attending tomorrow's sessions, the CPA exam, and that's Peter Olento, who is the National Lead Instructor for Becker. Becker's the leader in the CPA prep category, and he is one of their top presenters, very entertaining and a lot of fun. You can register for that or Friday's session, which is establishing your personal brand using social media, just for accounting students. And that's brought to you by Sage Software. So lots of great things to come. Today was fantastic. I took 3 pages of notes while we were talking, so I know our team appreciated that as well. So with that, we'll close out for the day. If you want to stay online, and I'll answer some more questions. And I hope everybody has a wonderful week. We thank you so much for participating. Make it a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.